The Last Jedi delivers a new episode in the Star Wars saga with some incredible twists and turns and real shocks. Yippee-ki-yay movie lovers, it's Jan here, and today I want to discuss and delve into the details of the ending of The Last Jedi, reveal some Easter eggs and deep cuts you might have missed, and explain what it all means for Episode 9, the final film in this trilogy. And to celebrate the release of a new Star Wars movie, I'm running a Star Wars giveaway for all my subscribers. To enter, make sure you're subscribed to my channel and leave a comment below with your thoughts about The Last Jedi. And I'll announce the winner of my recent superhero giveaway later in this video. Spoiler warning, obviously I'm discussing The Last Jedi in full detail, so take care if you haven't seen the movie yet. The final scenes of the movie are set on Crate, where the Resistance finds itself holed up in an old rebel base. Their shield door has been destroyed by the First Order siege cannon. The First Order is amassed outside and there's no apparent means of escape. The Resistance is in a desperate situation as they discover nobody is responding to their distress signal, a sign that, as Leia says, the galaxy has lost all hope. Then out of nowhere, Luke appears and has a touching reunion with his sister. No one in the Resistance knows it yet, but at this point Luke has force projected himself out of his own body, which is still on Act 2. Luke's force projection is able to physically interact with events on Crate, for example fighting Kylo Ren in a lightsaber duel, while his physical body is still on the island. This is something new we've not seen before in the Star Wars movies, however something similar has been seen in the Star Wars Expanded Universe, aka Star Wars Legends, where such projections are known as Force Phantoms or Sith Phantasms. Basically, they're apparitions created by Darksiders in a Sith ritual that harnesses the Force energy from another being. The apparitions can then be projected across the universe and used to interfere in the physical realm, and when the Phantom is destroyed, so is the life form which supplied its Force energy. Also in the Star Wars Dark Empire comic books, Luke has created a projection of himself in order to help Leia escape. The Star Wars Legends universe is no longer canon, however, but it's interesting to see elements from it included with a twist in The Last Jedi. Given that force projection is something new we're seeing in The Last Jedi, I think we're likely to see more of it going forward in new Star Wars movies, perhaps even with characters like Rey or Kylo Ren as their powers grow stronger. Okay, so getting back to that confrontation on Crate between Luke and Kylo Ren, we need to analyse Luke's words in more detail. Luke tells Kylo that the rebellion is reborn today, the war is just beginning and I will not be the last Jedi. At this moment the camera cuts to Rey, who's discovered that the Resistance are stuck in the old rebel base behind a pile of rocks. Rey then uses the Force to move the rocks away, and given Luke's words, we've got a clear indication that Rey will be the face of the new Jedi. The moment is also a nice callback to earlier in the movie when Luke was teaching Rey about the Force and explained that it's not about lifting rocks, which itself was a reference to The Empire Strikes Back when Luke trained with Yoda. When the scene cuts back to Luke and Kylo facing off, Kylo vows to destroy everyone, and in a moment that's very reminiscent of Obi-Wan Kenobi and Darth Vader in A New Hope, Luke turns off his lightsaber and says to Kylo, "Strike me down in anger and I'll always be with you, just like your father." And as Luke disappears from Crate, we cut back to the island where Luke is levitating. The effort of the force projection though causes Luke to collapse back onto the rock. We then get a very emotional scene as Luke looks out across the water and a cloud passes over the sun. Then Luke vanishes, leaving behind just his robes, becoming one with the Force, in the same way that Obi-Wan vanished when Darth Vader struck him down in A New Hope, and also how Yoda passed away in Return of the Jedi. Luke's sacrifice to save the Resistance, allowing them to escape the First Order, also mirrors Obi-Wan's sacrifice which allowed Han, Leia and Luke to escape Vader. This is a heartbreaking scene for many fans, but there's some important visual symbolism here too. Luke's sacrifice brought some balance back as the First Order was about to snuff out the Resistance before his intervention, and the cloud partially obscuring the sun suggests the light and the darkness in some sort of balance. At one point in this sequence, what looked like a faint rainbow appeared in the sky. Not only can rainbows be a sign of hope, change and a bridge between worlds, but also in the Buddhist tradition a rainbow body is a state of enlightenment when a person achieves the highest state of meditation and complete knowledge, and is often said to happen around the time of death, with the body dissolving into light. The Jedi way in Star Wars borrows from various Eastern traditions and philosophies, one of which is Buddhism, so I think the rainbow symbolism goes perfectly with the idea of Luke having reached a higher state with his ability to force project himself, and then when he becomes one with the Force at the end. Later in the scene we also see two suns on the horizon, which is another nostalgic callback to when Luke walked out on Tatooine in A New Hope and looked out over the sunset. I'm pretty sure Luke will return in episode 9 though, most likely as a Force ghost, with an ongoing ability to participate and influence events. Yoda already came back as a Force ghost in The Last Jedi and set the Force tree on fire, and I think we could see Luke have new scenes with Rey and Kylo in the next movie. After all, his parting words to Kylo were, "See you around, kid." Luke's death was sensed by Rey and Leia, and although it's a poignant moment, Rey does say that she didn't sense sadness or pain, but peace and purpose. However, that still leaves Rey wondering at the end how they will rebuild the Resistance. Leia answers that they have everything they need, and the camera pans down to Rey holding Luke's old lightsaber, which was split in two earlier in the movie when she struggled with Kylo Ren for control of it. Inside one of the lightsaber halves you can see an exposed Kyber crystal. Although Kyber crystals have appeared in other Star Wars media, in the movies they were first introduced in Rogue One, where the Empire was amassing them for the construction of the Death Star. Kyber crystals are a crucial element in constructing lightsabers, as they help to concentrate energy into the weapon's blade. In the animated Clone Wars TV series, new Jedi younglings have been involved in gathering Kyber crystals to build their own lightsabers. And so I think Leia's words along with the visual of the Kyber crystal indicate we could see Rey start a new Jedi Academy to fight back against the First Order. Or perhaps the Kyber crystals will be key to some new resistance technology that we've not yet seen in the Star Wars universe, in a similar way to how they were crucial to the Empire in operating the Death Star superweapon. By the way, just before Rey boarded the Millennium Falcon, she and Kylo were still able to sense each other. Earlier, Snoke claimed that he was responsible for bridging Kylo and Rey's minds, but with Snoke dead by the end of the movie, it seems that either Snoke was manipulating and lying to them, and/or Kylo and Rey's abilities have increased, and so they can now connect with each other independent of anyone else. However, the way Rey closes the Millennium Falcon door during their final connection might mean she's closing off future communication with Kylo. Although we see Kylo continue to embrace the dark side throughout The Last Jedi, he is still conflicted, for example hesitating to kill his mother Leia. And I wonder if, given that Luke told Leia no one's ever really gone, we may see Kylo redeem himself in some way by the end of episode 9, as Darth Vader did by the end of Return of the Jedi. Though if this did happen, I'd expect there to be a spin on it to make it at least a bit different. Of course, Luke's line that no one's ever really gone also refers to Han Solo, and Luke hands Leia the dice from the Millennium Falcon just after saying this. But Luke's words also foreshadow his own sacrifice at the end of the movie, and his likely return in episode 9. Before we leave Crate, we need to talk about Finn and Rose. In contrast to his attempt to leave the Resistance early on in the film, Finn ends up willing to sacrifice himself for the cause when he speeds towards the First Order's mega cannon, and although I never really believed that episode 8 would be the end for Finn, director Rian Johnson did manage to rack up the tension. But Rose drops in, literally crashing his speeder off course, and then unexpectedly kisses him. It's interesting that Finn and Rose's last major scene together calls back to their first scene, which also featured Rose scuppering Finn's plans when she stopped him leaving in an escape pod. But a lot's changed since then, and Finn has stepped up, proving worthy of Rose's high opinion of him as a hero, and Rose herself has proven worthy of the title hero as well. And Rose's line to Finn that they should win by saving what they love, not by fighting what they hate, was a positive moment amid a bleak situation for the Resistance, and echoes what Luke was taught by Yoda and Obi-Wan about not giving in to hate. I wasn't necessarily expecting the movie to pair up Rose and Finn, but given they did, it's a nice touch that she ends the film healing up, similar to how Finn finished his story in The Force Awakens. So those were the final scenes with the main cast, but just before the credits roll we get an important short scene set back on Canto Bight, where we see the stable hands reenacting the events on Crate with their own handmade toys. The scene shows that news and stories of how the legendary Jedi Master stood up to Kylo Ren and the First Order have spread through the galaxy, reigniting the spark that will light the fire to burn the First Order down, as Poe Dameron says at the end of the movie in an echo of Vice Admiral Holdo's words. One of the boys then goes outside, and as he's force sensitive he calls a broom to him, then looks up and sees a streak of light flash across the sky. We can then see that he's wearing the old rebellion ring that Rose Tico gave him earlier in the movie. It's a moment filled with hope and confirms Luke's claim to Kylo Ren that the rebellion is reborn. By the way, according to the visual dictionary, the boy's name appears to be Temiri Blagg, and I wonder whether he will actually be a specific new Force user who will appear in either episode 9 or the new trilogy that Rian Johnson's developing after J.J. Abrams' film. If he is going to appear again, then we may well revisit Canto Bight in a future movie. Also, I think it's intriguing that this boy, like Rey, has been sold and abandoned by his parents, which means we're getting a theme in Star Wars that a Force user doesn't always need to inherit their Force abilities from a special or privileged family. This scene also hints that we may get a time jump between the end of The Last Jedi and Episode 9. This would allow time for stories to spread about Luke Skywalker and the Resistance and how they foiled the First Order. A time gap could also be a possible way to deal with Leia's story in Episode 9 and the fact that Carrie Fisher is so sadly no longer with us. And if you're interested in my thoughts and theories on how I think we'll see Leia's arc completed in the sequel, then tap in the top right or check the video description for my Carrie Fisher video. So what did you think about The Last Jedi, and did it live up to your expectations? And do you have any predictions on what you think we'll see in Episode 9? Leave me a comment below and be sure to subscribe to enter my Star Wars giveaway for a very cool Last Jedi Funko Pop. The winner of my latest superhero giveaway is on screen right now, so if that's you, send me a private message so I can get your prize out to you. Coming up, I've got more Last Jedi videos, so turn on notifications to get them as soon as I upload them. And in the meantime, you can check out some more videos you're sure to like right here. Thanks for watching and see you next time. Yippee-ki-yay, movie lovers!